Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters.
Great to be here.
So today we're plunging into the fascinating and, frankly, sometimes alarming world of U.S. political parties.
Yeah, fascinating is definitely one word for it. Alarming, maybe another.
Absolutely. Did you know that over two-thirds of both Republicans and Democrats now see the other side as fundamentally immoral?
It's a staggering statistic, really.
It is, and that's a huge increase in just, 6 years? It really feels like it's transformed political opposition into something much more visceral.
Yeah, it's like a moral crusade now, which, makes compromise almost impossible. It's not just policy anymore.
Exactly. It's about how people perceive each other across that political line.
We've definitely moved from opposing ideas to opposing, well, the people themselves. That changes the whole dynamic.
That's such a crucial distinction. And alongside this escalating hostility, there's also this growing number of Americans saying, hey, I wish there were more choices.
Right, more parties to choose from.
Nearly 40% overall saying they often wish that. So this deep dive is all about understanding this shifting landscape.
Yep, we're looking at the hostility within the two-party system, but also these newer efforts trying to shake things up.
And for sources today, we're leaning heavily on that big Pew Research Center study from 2022.
Yeah, that one surveyed over 6,000 U.S. adults, so it gives a really solid, data-rich look at partisan hostility.
And we're also weaving in recent news reports specifically about a certain billionaire's very public attempt to launch a new political party.
Which adds a whole other layer to this conversation.
For sure. So our mission today, let's unpack these trends, try to figure out what's really driving them, and explore what it all could mean.
Yeah, for you, the voter, and really for the future of how America is governed. We'll hit the data, the history, even the economic ripples.
Okay, let's get into it. We've touched on the divide, but let's really dig into those Pew insights because they are quite revealing.
They really paint a picture. That 2022 study shows partisan animosity isn't just like simmering, it's boiling over into these really negative views.
It's not just, I don't like their policies anymore.
No, it's, I view the people in that party negatively, like fundamentally negative traits.
So how did we get here? You mentioned the immoral aspect. The numbers there are pretty dramatic.
They really are. So 72% of Republicans see Democrats as more immoral. That's up from 47% in 2016.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
And for Democrats looking at Republicans, 63% say Republicans are more immoral, up from 35%.
Still a massive increase. And it's similar for dishonest, right?
Yeah, very similar spikes. Over two-thirds of Republicans, nearly two-thirds of Democrats view the other side as dishonest. Less than half felt that way just 6 years prior.
And closed-minded is way up there, too.
Oh, yeah. 83% of Democrats see Republicans as closed-minded. 69% of Republicans say that about Democrats.
But there was that one unique finding about laziness.
Right. This was interesting. 62% of Republicans describe Democrats as more lazy. That number's jumped quite a bit.
But it doesn't really go the other way.
Not nearly as much. Only 26% of Democrats say Republicans are lazier. It's a curious asymmetry.
And this isn't just mild dislike we're talking about.
No. This is deep antipathy. Pew defines very unfavorable views, right?
Yeah.
Well, back in 1994, less than a quarter in either party felt that way about the other side.
Okay. And now?
Now it's over 60% for Republicans viewing Democrats very unfavorably, and over 50% for Democrats feeling that way about Republicans.
That is a profound shift. So if people see the other side with such, deep negativity, does that change why they pick a party? Is it all about hating the other team now?
It's a huge part of it. That's the whole negative partisanship idea. The Pew study found for both parties, a major reason people identify with their side isn't just loving their own platform. It's believing the other party's policies are actually harmful to the country.
So it's just as much about what you're against.
Almost exactly as much. The numbers are nearly equal for positive and negative reasons within each party. But for independents who lean towards a party, for them, that negative view, the idea that the other party is harmful, is the only major reason cited by majorities on both sides.
Oh, okay. So it's really driving the leaners. But it's not just about hating the other side, is it? People also feeling better about their own side.
That's the other side of the coin, yeah. The survey found partisans are holding increasingly positive views of their own party members.
Like the moral aspect again.
Exactly. 63% of Republicans now say their party members are more moral than other Americans. That's up significantly.
Okay.
And over half of Democrats, 51%, say the same about fellow Democrats, also a notable jump.
So it's like the wagons are circling. More positive about us, way more negative about them.
Precisely. Increasing polarization in how we see ourselves and the opposition.
Okay, so with all this animosity, this polarization, it kind of makes sense that people might start questioning the whole system.
Yeah, the cracks in the foundation of the two-party system seem to be showing.
And the Pew Research backs that up. That desire for more choices we mentioned.
Absolutely. It's pretty striking. Nearly 4 in 10 Americans, 39%, said they often wish there were more political parties to choose from.
Often wish. And another chunk feels that way sometimes.
Right. Another 32% say it describes their views somewhat well. So you combine those, and it's a big majority feeling some level of desire for more options.
Is there a difference between the parties on this?
Yeah. Democrats, at 38%, are more likely than Republicans, at 21%, to strongly wish for more parties.
Okay. But it's really the independents driving this feeling.
Definitely. Nearly half of all independents, 48%, strongly wish for more choices. That includes 48% of Republican leaners and 53% of Democratic leaners. They seem the most fed up.
And younger people, too.
Yep. 47% of those aged 18-49 expressed that strong desire, compared to just 23% of those 65 and older. So there's a generational thing happening, too.
Which all fits when you look at how unpopular both parties actually are.
Exactly. Neither party is exactly basking in public adoration. Only about 41% of Americans have a favorable view of the Democrats.
And Republicans.
Even lower, just 37%.
So think about that historically. How many people disliked both parties back in the day?
It's a huge shift. In 1994, only 6% of the public had an unfavorable view of both major parties. Tiny fraction.
And today?
Today, it's about 27%, almost a third of the country.
Wow. And among independents?
It jumps to 44%. 44% of both Republican-leaning and Democratic-leaning independents dislike both major parties. That signals real disaffection.
Yeah, widespread disaffection. And what about specific traits? How do people see the parties?
Well, the Democrats generally get seen as more respectful and tolerant of different people. That's 57% for Democrats versus 38% for the GOP on that measure.
Okay. But what about negative traits?
Well, the GOP is seen as more likely to make excuses for hateful views among its members. 61% say that about Republicans, compared to 51% for Democrats.
And honesty. Are either seen as particularly honest?
Not really. Neither gets great marks. 43% see Democrats as generally honest, 37% for Republicans. So, a lot of skepticism there.
And what about how people feel about their own party's leaders? Any changes there?
Yeah, that's interesting, too. Democratic leaners have actually become more critical of their party's leaders since 2016.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 40% expressed frustration in 2022, up from 28% in 2016. But for Republican leaners, their frustration with GOP leadership has gone down.
Down? For when?
It was 52% in 2016, down to 39% in 2022. Maybe a rallying effect, consolidation?
And within the GOP, there's that split over leaders who backed Trump's 2020 claims.
Right. About half, 51%, say they like GOP leaders who endorse those claims, while only 17% dislike them. So still a significant factor within the party.
Okay, so you've got all this frustration, this desire for more options. It feels like the stage is set for someone to try and disrupt things.
It does feel almost inevitable, doesn't it?
Which brings us neatly to Elon Musk and his recent announcement, the America Party.
Yep. Announced July 6th, 2025. A very public declaration of intent to form a new party.
And the trigger was apparently his split with Donald Trump over that big spending bill.
That seems to be the catalyst, yeah. What Musk called the Big Beautiful Bill, a $3.3 trillion package he claimed would, quote, bankrupt the country.
And this is fascinating because Musk was a huge backer of Trump in 2024.
Massive.
Yeah.
Over $277 million donated via the America PAC. He was the main contributor. So this is a pretty sharp turn.
So his mission statement now is?
He says he wants to give you back your freedom and create an alternative to what he calls the Democrat-Republican uniparty.
Okay. And his strategy isn't necessarily a presidential run out of the gate.
No, it seems more targeted, at least initially. He's talking about focusing on maybe just 2 or 3 Senate seats and 8 to 10 House districts in the 2026 midterms.
So the goal is leverage. Become the deciding vote.
That seems to be the play. Gain enough seats to hold the balance of power on contentious laws. It's a specific, maybe more achievable initial goal.
And the party's core ideas. What's the platform shaping up to be?
The tenets mentioned are fiscal discipline, modernizing the military with technology, think AI, and deregulation.
Which aligns pretty well with his business interest.
Oh, absolutely. Tesla, SpaceX, you can see the connections. For instance, that big, beautiful bill he opposes, it apparently proposed rolling back some Biden-era green energy tax breaks for EVs.
Ah, okay. So a direct hit to Tesla's bottom line, potentially.
That's certainly a major point of contention for him, yes.
And the reactions? How did Trump take it?
Predictably, not well. Trump immediately called the idea ridiculous, said third parties have never worked. Standard dismissal.
But he went further than that, didn't he? Something about DOGE?
Yeah, it got a bit weird.
Yeah.
He mentioned DOGE, which refers to the Defense Optimization Group for Enterprise, a task force Musk briefly led for him. Trump said DOG might have to go back and eat Elon.
Eat Elon. Wow.
Yeah, and even mused about deportation. So, pretty strong language. Seems the gloves are off.
Yikes. Okay, but who is showing interest? Anyone surprising?
This is where it gets interesting. Mark Cuban, the Democratic billionaire who backed Kamala Harris in 2024, apparently offered help with ballot access.
Cuban. Okay.
And Anthony Scaramucci, former Trump communications director, who also endorsed Harris, offered his assistance too.
Scaramucci. That's quite a pairing with Cuban.
It is a strange bedfellows situation, perhaps. And there's speculation about others who've clashed with Trump joining, like maybe Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Representative Thomas Massie.
People who might be looking for a different vehicle.
Potentially, yeah. People who've had public disagreements with the former president.
Okay, but let's pump the brakes a bit. All this buzz, all this energy. Third parties have a terrible track record in the U.S.
That's the massive elephant in the room. Experts are deeply skeptical, and history really isn't on Musk's side here.
Why is it so hard? What are the main barriers?
Well, the biggest is the structure of the system itself. The winner-takes-all electoral college is just brutal for third parties.
Right, like Ross Perot back in '92.
Exactly. He got 19% of the popular vote. 19%. That's huge.
Huge. But electoral votes?
Zero. Zilch. Nada. It perfectly shows how you can have significant popular support, but gain absolutely no institutional power at the presidential level.
It really does filter everything back to the two main players.
Completely. And you look at others. Jill Stein with the Green Party never really gained traction nationally. The most successful run ever was Teddy Roosevelt in 1912.
The Bull Moose Party.
Right,
Yeah.
Progressive Party. He got 88 electoral votes, which is impressive, but still lost.
And even recently, that no-labels effort for 2024 fizzled out.
Couldn't even find a candidate they agreed on. It's just incredibly difficult.
And it's not just the Electoral College, right? There are other hurdles.
Oh yeah, ballot access laws are a nightmare. Getting on the ballot in all 50 states is a complex and expensive logistical challenge.
And campaign finance. Can a billionaire just bankroll a whole new party?
Not directly, no. Federal campaign finance laws limit how much an individual, even Musk, can directly contribute to a political party.
So he can't just fund it like starting a new company.
He can fund super PACs supporting it with unlimited money, but the party structure itself has contribution limits. It's another layer of complexity.
Okay, and then there's Musk himself. How popular is he, actually?
That's a really good question. A Quinnipiac poll from June 2025, so pretty recent, showed only 30% of voters had a favorable opinion of him.
Only 30%. What was unfavorable?
57% unfavorable. So underwater quite significantly overall.
But maybe popular with certain groups?
Yeah, among Republicans, his favorability was much higher, 62%. So he has a base there, potentially.
Which leads to the spoiler question, doesn't it? If he pulls mostly from Republicans.
That's the big risk, especially in the short term. The America Party could absolutely split the Republican vote in key districts.
Potentially handing control of the House, maybe even the Senate, to the Democrats.
It's a very real possibility. The spoiler effect is a classic problem for third parties.
Yet, despite all these massive hurdles, history, structure, finance, his own polling Musk seems pretty confident.
He does. He was quoted saying that breaking the two-party stranglehold is, and I quote, not hard TBH.
Not hard, to be honest. Okay, well, that's...
Confident, maybe a little casual, given the historical evidence, but yeah.
All right, let's shift gears slightly. Beyond the pure politics, any attempt like this, especially with Musk involved, is going to cause economic ripples, right?
Oh, absolutely. Market tremors, as you say, we're already seeing some effects on his own companies.
Like Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla shares dipped below $316 by late 2025. Musk himself apparently linked some of the decline to investor anxiety about this feud with Trump.
Because Trump could retaliate.
That's the fear, especially for SpaceX, which relies heavily on government contracts, NASA, the Pentagon.
Right. If Trump were to regain power and decide to cut those ties,
yeah,
that's a huge risk.
A massive risk for SpaceX. So yeah, his political moves have direct financial consequences for his businesses.
And looking beyond Musk's own empire, what about broader market sectors? The party's focus areas, AI, military tech, deregulation?
Well, assuming the party gains any traction, those areas could see some shifts. Companies aligned with AI-driven defense or maybe certain energy sectors benefiting from deregulation might see opportunities. Think maybe Nextra Energy, NVIDIA, firms like that.
But it's still early days for their platform.
Very early. It's mostly talk at this point. But conversely, traditional aerospace and defense stocks, like Lockheed Martin, could face uncertainty if this new party actually starts influencing spending priorities.
And what about the pro-American rhetoric? Any implications there?
Could mean more scrutiny for companies with significant ties to, say, China. Maybe EV competitors like NIO, for example. Depends on how protectionist the rhetoric gets.
So generally speaking, more political uncertainty could mean more market volatility overall.
That's usually the case. Political instability tends to amplify market swings. Investors get nervous, especially in sectors heavily reliant on government spending or regulation, healthcare, infrastructure, etc.
So the advice might be caution.
Some sources suggest caution, yeah. Maybe avoiding stocks that are heavily exposed, perhaps looking at hedging strategies like treasury bonds or even gold if uncertainty really spikes.
And just as a final reality check, has this America party actually, filed the paperwork?
Good point. As of June 2025, the reporting indicated its FEC registration was still unconfirmed. So even the most disruptive ideas still have to navigate the bureaucracy.
Right. Got to file the forms. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We definitely have.
We started with that really stark picture from Pew Research, the escalating partisan animosity, how Republicans and Democrats increasingly view each other in these really negative terms like immoral and dishonest.
Yeah, that negative partisanship driving so much, and alongside it, that clear frustration with the two-party system itself.
Right, that significant chunk of Americans, especially younger people and independents, wishing for more choices.
Which perfectly sets the stage for someone like Elon Musk to step in with this audacious plan for the America Party.
Audacious, definitely. We look at his strategy aiming for leverage, not the presidency right away, the somewhat surprising initial reactions.
And the very real hurdles, the history, the structural barriers, the financial rules, the potential spoiler effect. It's a massive uphill climb.
Not to mention the economic ripple effects, both for Musk's own companies and potentially broader markets, if this gains any steam.
It really highlights how intertwined politics, personality, and economics are in this current moment.
It does. So, thinking about all this, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener?
It's complex, isn't it? Is this deep desire for more parties just a temporary frustration with the current political figures and climate?
Or does it signal something deeper? A fundamental shift in how Americans see their political identity, maybe moving away from the traditional two-party loyalty.
That's the million-dollar question, I suppose. How might these forces, the intense division, the yearning for alternatives, the attempts at disruption actually reshape our elections and policies down the road?
And what role might you play in that, either shaping it or just reacting to this evolving political story? What stands out to you as the most significant piece of this puzzle we've unpacked today?
Lots to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.